Everyone knows Steve Rogers is the one and only Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Heck, even people who aren't superhero fans know that much about the character. But ever since time travel and multiple timelines got introduced to the MCU thanks to Doctor Strange, things have gotten a bit more complicated. Could there actually be more than one Steve Rogers currently in existence as we head into Avengers Endgame? Let's find out. In the world of Marvel Comics, there are many heroes who call themselves Captain America. In the MCU, Steve Rogers might be special, but in the comic books, well, he's still special. But there have been other Captain Americas. These include Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, one of whom may end up taking on the title again if Steve doesn't manage to survive Avengers Endgame. The good news is that going into the movie, Steve Rogers is a fan favorite. The bad news is he's also a favorite for most likely to not survive the movie. Hey, we're optimists. Captain America's been around for a long time, and we're guessing actor Chris Evans' contract is just about finished. Add in some vague social media posts, and everyone's convinced we're going to be saying goodbye to our beloved Captain America. But while we may bid farewell to one Steve, Redditor AK2Sup believes there may be another lurking in the MCU. They may be clinging to a single shred of hope, but this Marvel fan believes there's another Steve, and that we've seen evidence of him in the Endgame trailers. And no, we're not talking about a Skrull secretly masquerading as Captain America. Although, with the sinister shapeshifters being introduced in Captain Marvel, it's hard to know who to trust these days. So why do people think there's more than one Steve Rogers in the Endgame trailers? Since the idea of time travel and multiple timelines have been introduced, it does mean pretty much anything is possible. Steve going back in time and encountering his past self is something that could definitely happen, or another version of Steve could find his way to the current MCU timeline. During the first Endgame trailer, we saw Steve shedding a couple of tears, which are sliding down his cheeks and not being absorbed into the beautiful beard we saw during Infinity War. Also, the leather jacket looks similar to the one we saw him wearing way back at the end of the Avengers, which is the movie in which the Battle of New York takes place. Later on in the trailer, we see him wearing his stealth suit and standing with Natasha, and his hair looks similar to how it was during Infinity War. It basically looks like he simply shaved his beard after the decimation, and some claim this is the second version of Steve. Some people might find Natasha Romanoff's constantly fluctuating hairstyles irritating, but at least they're usually pretty distinct from one another. On the other hand, these changes we're supposed to be seeing in Steve's hair and wardrobe are pretty imperceptible. And even if there are multiple Steve Rogers, we have to ask why. We know they say the more the merrier, but we don't think this saying generally extends to cover alternate versions of people. We've lost many great characters over the course of the MCU history, and even though Mjolnir isn't a person, we still mourn the loss of it. Not as much as Thor, perhaps, but it was still pretty sad. Although we saw Steve try and fail to lift Thor's mystical hammer during Age of Ultron, in the comic books he does manage to wield it on many occasions. As Star-Lord pointed out during Infinity War, it'd sure be helpful if more characters had ultra-powerful Uru weapons, and were able to use them against Thanos. Think back to the scene during Age of Ultron where, unlike everyone else, Steve was able to move Mjolnir slightly. When asked about it, director Joss Whedon said, "Did he fail, or did he stop?" Many fans believe this means we'll see Steve using Mjolnir at some point, and time travel just might make this possible. In addition to collecting the Infinity Stones, is it possible that our heroes might go back in time to before Mjolnir was destroyed and recover it? To add fuel to this fire, consider that the Russo brothers were asked about the possibility of Steve and Mjolnir while working on Civil War, and they said it's something which might come up in the future. As Doctor Strange said, "We're in the Endgame now." So if it's gonna happen, it makes sense it'd be in this movie. Now let's look at the Super Bowl Endgame trailer, where we see Steve putting on his iconic shield once more. He's using the old strap method of attaching it to himself, instead of the more advanced magnetic version he acquired during Age of Ultron. Could this hint that we're seeing a different Steve from another timeline, and not the modern one who uses the more efficient magnetic shield system? Then there's what the shield symbolizes. It was always meaningful that Captain America used the shield as opposed to a sword, because his duty has always been to protect. The shield was given to him in earnest good faith by Howard Stark, who wasn't a perfect guy by any means, but tried to do right by Steve, and then Steve's best friend Bucky went and hunted down Howard and his wife. And of course, during Civil War, this led to a heartbreaking fight between Tony and Steve, in which the latter used his symbol of peace to bash on his pal. He left the shield behind when Tony asked him to, but now, apparently, he feels worthy enough to use it again. Steve being worthy enough to wield Mjolnir would certainly be both interesting and awesome, but would it be enough to stop Thanos? If not, and Steve gets ripped apart by the Mad Titan, it could explain why we see another Steve in the Endgame trailers. There are definitely a ton of strange implications which come with time travel, and we can't wait to see them explored. We know we love having Steve Rogers in the MCU, but is he so nice Marvel Studios literally made him twice? How many Steves do you think there are? Tell us what you think about this off-the-wall theory in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU content. Thanks for watching.